Hello, students. Holy mackerel. Doesn't that last note just sound really bad? Well, today we're going to be talking about the third valve slide because there are certain notes, no matter how awesome your trumpet is, there are certain notes that are just going to be out of tune. This also applies to euphonium players or anybody else who's playing three valves. There's certain combinations that are just grossly out of tune. And we're going to talk about that now. Hope you enjoyed that intro. It hurt to make, I promise. I'm going to show you how to correct that and the method that I used to teach folks to deal with the third valve slide so that we can get our notes in tune. All right, we're going to start off with some of the more rudimentary aspect of this. So, in that introduction, I kind of improvised in the key of D flat. Not everybody knows this note yet, but so I played this scale and I ended on the note with all three fingers, all three valves down, and that note is just always out of tune. It just is. So the way we correct that is by pulling this where this ring is. That's our third valve slide, and it moves, right? So if oh, I'm showing you the wrong side. Let's fix that. So if I can move this slide in and out. Now your trumpet might be a little bit stuck here. Your instrument might be a little bit stuck. Really good idea to make sure this slide is maintained, your third valve slide, that it moves smoothly and quickly. On higher end instruments, these move very, very rapidly. On older instruments like mine here, I needed to do a little extra massaging to get this thing to move smoothly. So if you haven't done that, or if it's stuck, see if you can't maybe get that unstuck before we meet on Wednesday, so we can kind of work through some of this. Okay, so third valve slide, make it nice and free. So when we're looking to use this, a good thing to review here is our left hand technique on the instrument. When I teach beginners, we're just going to go over that together. We do the two fingers, we slide them in there. Our third finger, our ring finger, goes in the ring, pinky below, thumb up here. You might have a saddle here for your thumb. That's a good place to put your thumb. And then we're just gripping the instrument this way. Now it looks kind of strange a little bit, but there are advantages to holding the instrument this way. And we're going to go over this together. The first thing we're going to do with our right hand, we're just going to hold third valve down. That's the third valve, just hold it down. Now, for a moment, we're going to take our hands away, or our ring finger, rather, away from the ring. And with this third valve pushed, we're going to try to use our middle finger here, this one, to push the valve. Now I have my knuckle right on the ring, so I have a lot of power. I'm going to push that out. Okay. Bring your ring finger back in and pull it in. Put your ring finger down. We're going to push with our middle finger. Push. Ring finger in. Pull back. So we're going to do that in succession. Push, pull like that. Push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. Now, in practical sense, that's not really the way it looks. But my two fingers here, these two fingers right here, are moving together. I'm going to press that third valve again. I'm pushing with my middle finger and I'm pulling in with my ring finger. Push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. You try that as well. Push, pull, push, pull. So try and get that as smoothly operating as you can. Just so you're aware, there are other players who play quite differently. This is a kind of an unusual but fairly common a technique to play. It's much harder though to get that with your index finger. So I have my thumb way down here, my index finger up here. I don't recommend this, but I have seen players do this, really skilled players as well. So we're trying to make sure we can move that pretty far. You see, I'm having a real hard time stretching my finger way out. It makes it very hard to use. So I really do recommend the traditional grip, two fingers, ring, pinky, thumb, probably saddle if you have a saddle here for your thumb. All right, so practice that grip, practice that push in, pull out, or push out, pull, middle finger, ring finger, push with the ring finger, pull with the middle finger. Try that a few times, and we're going to discuss why this is important next. First up, we're going to just talk about the note D, the low D fingered 1 and 3. This note is naturally a little bit out of tune, and we need to adjust. So it's not often taught this way. Sometimes with adults, beginners, I will actually teach them this way, but we're going to treat that note D like it has a different fingering. So we're going to use 1 and 3 like normal, but we're going to include pushing out that slide for the low D. All right. So we're going to treat that like a fingering. So let's practice C to D where we push that out. Okay. Bring it back to C. We're going to pull it in. That's C, and then push out for D. C, D. C, D. Okay. This note is out of tune. It's not as bad as the one I played in the introduction. I played a different note. If you're one of my more advanced students, I'm sure we've talked about having, if you're playing that low D flat or that low C sharp, it's got to come way out. Sometimes I even recommend you pull your saddle out if you have a saddle. But for most every trumpet does at least have this, and you're able to push it out. Okay. So let's, in the next segment, we're going to go ahead and practice C, D, C, D with this movement happening. C, D, C, D. And we're going to try playing it. It's a lot harder to play until we get that slide action moved real smooth, okay? So here we go. Now it's not a bad idea if you have access to a tuner. You can really find out just exactly where for you that pullout is, but the most important thing is that we get the slide pulled and use our ears to tell us whether it's close or not. So we're going to try C and D. I'm going to pull out that slide. Remember, we're pushing it with our middle finger, pulling it with our ring finger from C to D. C, D, C, D. Real slow. Okay. Try a little faster if you're able to. Ta, 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 ta. Okay, so practice that on your own a few times, and then we'll try also doing it with all 3 valves, and we're going to demonstrate just why that note is so bad. Now in that introduction, I told you I played in the key of D flat. So I played this D flat major scale, and I didn't pull that slide out. So let's see what that scale, I'm going to go down from the high D flat, down lower. You probably don't know the scale, but if you do. Oh boy, that sounds bad, right? So we're going to practice, well first of all I'm going to play that for you with it pulled, and you'll hear that last note just sounds better. So much better, isn't it? So really important. And let's start to treat that note D with a new fingering, kind of a new fingering. We're going to push that out as part of our fingering. And if you're familiar with D flat, we're going to pull it way out. And if you have access to the saddle, do that as well. Let's do some C to D flat now. So that's all 3 valves. C, D flat, C. Okay, so we'll be working on that on Wednesday. In the next segment, I'm going to show you some kind of tricks and things, a little more advanced look at how we can deal with that out of tuneness of especially those 2 notes, D and D flat. All right, so a little bit of some curiosity factor here. If you have a 4-valve instrument, maybe you play the euphonium or the tuba, you might already know some of this stuff, but I'm going to go over it for people who are less familiar with it. So that I brought up my piccolo trumpet because it's the only instrument I own with 4 valves. Now this piccolo trumpet has the same problem with that, the high D, the D flat. It's going to sound an octave higher, but I'm going to try to make that more clear by playing a little phrase. if you can, that sounds pretty bad, right? So the way the solution works on an instrument like this, the slides aren't movable. This right here is our third valve slide, and it doesn't move. You can pull it out, but you can't move it while you play. So on a 4-valve instrument, we'd use fourth valve replaces this fingering, which we already know to be problematic on the trumpet, right? When we play that note, it's a little too high. We're practicing pulling out the slide. Well, so I have that fingering I can use for D, and then if I lower it by a half step that way, it should sound a little better. So I'm going to try C to D flat like this, and then I'll do it like this so you can hear the difference. Here's all 3 valves. And then this one's going to sound a little bit lower, more in tune. And in practice, I play it this way, but the concept still works. Right, so it plays better in tune. And the same with the D. So on 4-valve instruments, you have a little bit of an advantage. You don't have to deal with the slide pulling quite as much, but it is helpful because we have an extra valve with some extra tubing to get those notes in tune. Okay, and just lastly, I want to go over some tricks about the slide. So even though we're playing, say, this note and we're pushing that out way real far, it turns out we don't have to always bring it in and out. So once you've gotten used to just treating that like a fingering, where you push it out, you can understand that this tube that we're pulling out only is used on the 3rd valve slide. So if I were to play, say, the C major scale, or the first few notes of it, where I'm going to push it out first. Right, that works, but interestingly, if I pre-pull it out and just leave it out, it still works. And it still works because the only note that I'm playing right now that uses 3rd valve is D. So I'm just going to leave that out. Let me push it in so you can hear that without it. It's a little sharp. So that's a nice trick as well. It seems like sometimes you have to do this a lot. You have to go back, move it really fast, and that's a difficult thing to do. So a trick is to know that, hey, I only have a couple notes that use that. Or maybe I'm going from C to D to F to E flat maybe. Well, I can just leave it out until I get to this fingering where I'll bring it back in. So let's see what that would look like. So I'm pushing it out already. Right, so I'm just only moving it when I need to move it, in or I need to move it out for an adjustment. Just a final note on this fingering 2 and 3 that we use for E flat, A flat, etc. Tends to be this much flat, and there's not really any way to adjust for that. And that's why trumpets are built the way they are. That's why some of these notes end up being out of tune, is because they're trying to strike a balance between this fingering and this fingering. Because if they made any of the tubes longer, so we didn't have to do that, this note would sound really bad. So 3rd valve slide, we're going to be working on that this week. Try to strengthen that middle finger, ring finger, middle finger, ring finger, okay? All right, see you guys on Wednesday. Bye now.